In the cold void of deep space, where the stars glistened like diamonds scattered across an infinite black sea, a lone ship streaked through the vast emptiness. It was nothing more than a blip on the sensors of the HFY fleet, a collection of vessels belonging to a species far older, more advanced, and far more powerful than humanity could ever dream. They had conquered galaxies, overthrown civilizations, and wiped countless species from existence. But today they would encounter something they had never expected, a single human who would outmaneuver them all. Lieutenant Commander Ezra Hayes sat alone in the cockpit of the Vanguard, a modified human fighter ship. Its hands gripped the controls tightly, sweat beading on his brow. He knew what was coming. The HFYers had underestimated humanity, believing their advanced tech and overwhelming numbers would make short work of the human resistance. But Hayes had other plans. His ship was a marvel of human ingenuity, compact, fast, and built for precision. He had been tracking the HFY fleet for days, waiting for the perfect moment. The odds were stacked against him. An entire fleet versus a single fighter. 100 ships against one. It seemed impossible, but Hayes had learned something during humanity's long and brutal history. Never bet against a human when their back was against the wall. The HFY fleet was closing in fast. Their ships, massive and heavily armed, appeared on Hayes' radar. They were relentless in their pursuit, like a pack of wolves stalking their prey. A voice crackled through his comms. The HFY commander's booming voice filled the silence. "Human, surrender now. You cannot escape. You cannot win." Ezra's lips curled into a grin. He didn't respond, knowing the HFY's arrogance would be their downfall. He had studied their tactics, their weaknesses, their patterns. He knew they would expect him to flee, to run, to try to outpace them in the vastness of space. But that wasn't his plan. He hit a few buttons, engaging the ship's cloaking mechanism and diverting all available energy to its thrusters. For a moment, he was nothing more than a ghost in the night. The fleet moved past, unaware of his presence. Ezra had already analyzed their formation, and now it was time to act. His ship lurched forward with unimaginable speed, weaving between the HFY ships, his small vessel dancing like a shadow in the chaos of the massive fleet. The HFY's sensors couldn't keep up. They were designed to detect large, predictable targets, not a single unpredictable human. Hayes used this to his advantage, darting between the colossal alien vessels, using their own size and bulk against them. "Impossible. Where did it go?" came the frustrated voice of the HFY commander. Ezra's heart pounded in his chest as he executed another impossible maneuver, his ship skimming dangerously close to the hull of an enemy warship. The alien fleet's ships were too slow to react, and he knew time was running out. They would eventually adapt, but he had to act fast. The Vanguard shot toward the center of the fleet, where the flagship of the HFY fleet, the Dreadnought, sat like a behemoth among its smaller counterparts. It was heavily armored, bristling with weapons, and protected by an advanced shield. To most, it was an impregnable fortress, but to Hayes, it was a target. In a daring move, Hayes disengaged the cloak and fired a salvo of disruptor missiles directly at the Dreadnought. The HFY commander barked orders, but it was too late. The missiles found their mark, striking the flagship's weak spots. The Dreadnought shook violently as the explosions tore through its defenses. The HFYs scrambled to contain the damage, but their slow response was their undoing. "Human, you will pay for this," the commander roared, fury in his voice. But Hayes had already moved on. He didn't give them the satisfaction of a chase. Instead, he activated the Vanguard's hyperdrive, sending his ship into a blinding flash of light as it shot into another part of the galaxy. The HFY fleet, now in disarray, had no idea where he had gone. The aliens scrambled, desperately trying to locate their prey, but it was too late. Hayes had already outwitted them. He watched the chaos unfold on his radar, the HFY ships moving erratically as their coordination broke down. Their pride had been shattered by a single human. They had underestimated humanity's ingenuity, resourcefulness, and sheer will to survive. Hayes had just given them a taste of what it meant to be human. The HFYers would never forget this day. The single human who had outmaneuvered an entire fleet, who had turned their arrogance against them. In the vastness of space, where civilizations rose and fell, it was the humans who had the last laugh. As the vanguard sped away, Ezra allowed himself a moment of relief. He wasn't done yet. This was only the beginning. The Keithaker fleet might have been powerful, but humanity had something the aliens would never understand: the unyielding, indomitable spirit of a single individual willing to fight until the very end. And in that spirit, Ezra Hayes smiled. One human, against all odds, had won. The end.